Welcome back to the Graeme and Sophia podcast. We just watched the Belgian Grand Prix and kind of another stinker a little bit.
Yeah, I would say the worst one so far out of the past 3, 4 races, I would say. For me.
I I think it was like slightly better than Hungary, but like not by much, like very close to being the same as Hungary for me, but we can get into it.
That's fair. I was also wildly hungover when I was watching, so that might play a part in this, but I will say the
Yeah, the
dedication.
race did the race put you to sleep? Put you back to sleep?
It did at one point, I'm not gonna lie. It did. But I woke up and I conquered and I made it through, but it was a very dangerous duo. A hangover and a slow race.
All right, well, let's get into the race results. The podium was Max P1, Checo P2, and Charles P3. And then the rest of the top 10 was Lewis in fourth, Alonso in fifth, George in sixth, Lando in seventh, Ocon in eighth, Lance ninth, and Yuki 10th. So I think that no surprise really on the top two, but I think there were actually a couple surprise finishers in the top 10 there. Ocon in eighth and Yuki getting points again.
Yeah. No, definitely a shock there. Also, obviously, Charles P3, who would have thought? I mean, obviously, he started
Yeah.
P1, and Red Bull taking him over was so expected. But, I, whenever you're hitting rock bottom with Ferrari, they give you a tiny bit of hope. And
It's
then
the
you're
hope
like,
that kills.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But it was great to see, I was nervous with Lewis there as well. Um,
Yeah,
Really
there was a point at
disappointed.
the end of the race where Lewis like almost like was getting a little bit of time on Charles, and like I thought like oh he might actually catch him, but then he just stalled out and ended up boxing for the fastest lap.
Yeah, which we all know Max was not thrilled about. He couldn't have been.
Yeah,
But
there was some spicy radio between him and GP during the entire race weekend.
yes, it was really one of my favorite parts, and I will touch on that more when we get to our race highlights. Definitely funny to hear that sassiness come out.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of times they'll like they'll try to keep the radio like either like drivers are battling or someone has like an issue or something, but then yeah, I think the race they even like the race directors, I guess, or whoever is in charge of the TV direction was getting a little bit bored and thought that was exciting for us to listen to.
They just had to show how much Max was in the lead, that he could just fuck around with everyone and make these
Yeah,
crazy jokes for another extra pit stop. Savage move on Max's part, honestly.
yeah,
So crazy.
it's another race where he basically finishes like 30 seconds ahead of second place. It's
Hmm.
actually insane.
He must be so bored.
Yeah, it must be demoralizing for Checo. Like he's finishing like in the same car, finishing 30 seconds behind Max, and he started 4 or 5 positions ahead of Max as well.
It's crazy, and it makes you wonder if, Max's car is actually better than Checo's. Because
No, I think
technically,
Checo's just not that good,
he's
and I
just
think
bad.
Max is that good. Not that he's bad. I think he's a perfectly good average driver, but he's just Max.
Average.
Yeah, Max
Average.
is something special. I saw
Okay.
something that the gap between Max and Checo now is the second biggest gap between teammates at this point in the season in F1 history.
Really? What was the
Yeah.
first? Or what is the first? Do you
I think it might
remember?
have been Schumacher with one of his teammates.
That makes sense.
I don't remember off the top of my head who it was. And then I think the third biggest gap, or third, it was either third or fourth biggest gap, was Max and Gasly when they were teammates. So
That makes a little bit more
Max is kind of
sense.
just a teammate killer.
Yeah, he's just that good. One of the tweets that I saw, or I don't know if it was a tweet or like a post, it was like Max could start from the moon and still finish P1.
Yeah, actually, I saw in I think it was a post race interview from Lewis. Someone asked him like, like how would you do if your car was as fast as Max's? And he was like, oh, yeah, I would love to have a car that's as fast. If I was in the car instead of Checo, Max would not be having as easy of a season. Basically, like shitting on Checo and saying like he's just not that great.
Shots fired. But honestly, I would love to see Lewis and Max in the same car.
There's zero chance they would ever be teammates. Like, no
Obviously, that would
way.
be like a powerhouse of a team, but like just for fun, during the summer break, if they just want to get into a random car, see how that goes.
Yeah. What they should do for sprint races is they all just get in like go karts and just all the same go kart and just do like go karting instead.
Wait, not that they're
Just
the same, but did you see the Formula E sprint race?
no, what about it? Just like the crashes that happened or
It turned into a parking lot at one point.
oh yeah. Formula E drivers are like crazy. They go for like the most insane dive bombs and moves and then like they just it's basically like I think NASCAR
Bumper
raced on like a
cars.
street. Yeah, NASCAR raced on like an actual like street track like a couple weeks ago, and the same thing happened. Like one person got spun around, and then just 20 cars were just stuck and just could not go anywhere.
I think there was like 4 red flags, like something so insane. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just saw the clip of that and I was like, what is going on in Formula E and why am I not watching?
Yeah, they I haven't watched a full race of Formula E, but I've seen like clips and some parts of races, and yeah, they always there's like usually always red flags, always people making crazy moves and crashing. It's like everyone's like trying to like prove a point to
Yeah.
whoever like their team or sponsors or see if they can make their way to like F2 or F1 or something like that. So everyone's just going for it.
Well, I don't think that's how they get there, but I don't know. I'm not, the
Well, I
recruiter
mean, Nick
or whoever
Nick
makes the.
DeVries was the Formula E world champion.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying I don't think that's how they get there in terms of like crashing and
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, no. I don't think crashing is gonna help their chances.
yeah, that's where I was getting at. Not that Formula E doesn't bring F1 drivers because
Yeah.
it does. But
All
anyway,
right.
my little tangent on Formula E is over. What would you
So
rate this race?
yeah, so like I was saying, I think in my opinion, just because it was spring weekend, there was some wet weather and a little bit of interchangeable conditions. I think it was a little bit better than Hungary, but still like not a great race, not very entertaining. So I'm gonna give it a 5.5 out of 10. How about you? What would
I
you rate this one?
I gave it a 4. Um,
Okay.
I think it was just the circumstances. Even though Charles P3, I should have been ecstatic about it. I
Yeah, I'm
think
surprised that's not like a 8 for you.
I
Actually,
know.
considering how Ferrari have been doing the last couple of races.
I think it's because I know that this is just like a little tease, and then all of a sudden, like
Hmm.
we come back from break and they're just shitting the bed all over again. I will say though, it was really cool to see Carlos and Charles. Like Carlos was helping Charles defend against Checo in the sprint race. Did you see that clip?
No, like specifically trying to defend.
Like,
Like,
I mean, if I
were they
didn't know
going
any
down
better, I'd say
the
yes.
straight, and then Carlos was like positioning his
Yeah,
car to make it so that way
so
Checo like
that
couldn't get past.
yeah, and that Charles could from like the inside, and then he like last minute like pulled out so that Charles can get ahead of Checo.
Hmm. I did not see that. I must have missed that.
I'm gonna
But
find the
I
clip.
was more focused on Oscar and P2. So
I know, how great for him. That was so exciting. Also, he's a savage on Twitter or X now, I should say. Did
why?
you?
What did he tweet?
Let me pull up my X app now that Elon wants to mess around with us. He posted a picture of him like going like this, and the caption is
Oh,
point
the hit.
zero one one, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, that was in relation to the qualifying gap.
Yeah, but it has a different
It's
meaning
like
as well. Like,
Oscar didn't mean it like that. He's not
I
like
don't
it's like a
know.
small gap.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like he was being cheeky
I don't think so.
with.
Oscar is
You
not
don't
that
think so?
that kind of guy. Absolutely not. Oscar is just saying
I
like it's like
don't.
it's like that small. Like the gap was that small. Like it was tiny.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just like
Oscar.
misconstrued that one.
That's fair. It's possible. I think Oscar's not that kind of guy. He seems too clean
Straight
almost
edge.
to yeah, straight edge. That's a better way to put it.
I don't know. Well, we can we can leave that up there. I obviously think the original meaning of it was showing the gap, but if he
Hmm.
did that as like a cheeky, subtle joke, I I think it's funny. But
He
you
left it
disagree
open
with
for
me, so
interpretation, but I don't think that was his I don't think that was his intent.
whatever. We can agree to disagree.
All right.
But yeah, no.
So let's get into our predictions for this race. You
You,
for your podium, you had Max P1, Checo P2, and Oscar P3. So no surprise, you got well, I guess no surprise for Max, but
yeah,
maybe a little surprise for Checo because he hadn't finished second in like 6 or 7 races. So
yeah.
that's 2 points. And then your wild prediction was that there would be a crash on lap one. Are
It did
we
happen. It
I
did
don't know if it was
happen.
really a crash.
I mean, it
There was
resulted in both of them
contact.
a DNF.
Yeah, but they
They
didn't
both
it was
had
just
to.
like contact.
Yeah, but a crash can be considered contact.
I did say in last episode that if it led to a DNF but there was no like safety cars or anything, that I would
You would
give you
accept
a
it.
point.
Yeah.
So I will give it to you. Even though it wasn't like a crazy catastrophic crash.
Well,
It
thank
was
God.
yeah. Obviously, we don't want the drivers to get hurt or anything.
Yes, but there was a crash. And on lap
Very
one,
light
I was
crash,
specific.
but yeah.
I was specific too with lap one.
It was lap 1 turn 1. So
Yeah.
literally as early as you can get.
Yep.
So
So
that's another point for you.
thank you. I will accept that. All right, going into your predictions. Again, Max P1, no brainer. You also had Checo P2, so that's 2 points for both of us. You had
Yep.
Lando P3. I think you
Yeah,
got
we
a
were
little
we were
bit
both
trigger happy.
we were both pretty high on McLaren this weekend, and that did not work out.
Sounds like a
Well,
Ferrari
I
move.
mean, did for Oscar in the sprint, but not in the actual race.
That's true. That's true. And then I guess, your wild prediction was Danny Rick finishes top 10,
And he
which he did not
did
do. Well,
in the sprint. I didn't clarify race or sprint. I just said he would get a top 10 finish,
I
which he did.
guess
He absolutely finished in the top 10 of the
the only
sprint.
reason the only reason I'm feeling generous is because you gave me this last one. But I think moving forward, we both have to clarify.
Okay.
I'll give you
That's
the
fair.
point.
Look at us go. We
But
both got our wild predictions right. I feel like that's
the
never
best
going to
is
happen again.
the best is that we had to like pull strings to make that work. We're like, well, technically.
Yeah, I think when I was originally coming up with a prediction, I was be like, "Oh, Dan Rick's going to get a point," but then for some reason I phrased it as top 10, so it worked, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say no to a point.
Whatever. We'll be more specific next time. I'm still beating you. So,
Barely, barely. We got 10 races to go. There's lots of predictions left to go.
What does winner get? Did we ever decide?
Bragging rights?
Mm, We'll have to think of something better, like a
We'll think of
dare,
it. Yeah.
like an
Okay.
embarrassing dare. All right. Moving on to the moment of the race. What was your favorite part of the race
Yeah.
or moment?
So actually, kind of two things. One for the sprint, which just want to quickly highlight that Oscar did lead a race for a little bit. That was pretty cool. Rookie,
Yeah.
and he's leading a race in F1. That doesn't happen very often. But
No?
my main moment of the race was when the rain came during the race for like 3 or 4 laps. And, I was secretly like, I was like really hoping it was going to be like a lot of rain because McLaren basically completely set up their car to only be good in the wet weather. I think like in qualifying in sector 2, they were the only car that was close to Max, and then every other car was like 6 or 7 tenths behind them. But then in sector 1 and 3, they were losing like a second on the straights, which was insane.
No.
But when the rain did come in the race, Lando was like the fastest person on track by far. I think the first lap he was like 4 seconds faster than Max, then 2 seconds, then 2 seconds, and then like half a second. So like if the rain had stayed, he like very easily could have gotten into like the top five.
Well, we
But
know
that
every McLaren fan and person on the team was crossing their fingers for rain.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean that's what got Lando the P7 because literally he was running last place for a while,
Yeah.
for like a
Yeah.
couple laps after like he was on the mediums and then boxed again to clean air onto the hards, was super slow, and then boxed again onto the softs, and at that point he was last.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck? Like I was just like, wow, he's not even gonna finish in the top 10 or get any points. And then when the rain came, he like made up so much time on everyone else. So that was my moment of the race. What was yours?
Well, going off of that first, I like in the post
Mm-hmm.
race interview when I forget who was interviewing him, but they're like, "Oh, I heard you had problems with the steering, and that's why you guys were slow." And he literally just looked confused. He was like, "We didn't have problems with the steering. Like our car was just slow." I was like, "Leave it to Lando to have like a cheeky little comment." I was like, "That's so funny and honest," and that's a main reason why I think a lot of people love Lando.
Yeah,
He's just a funny guy. But
he
anyway,
really is. All right, on to your moment of the race.
my I guess there's two as well. The first one being Max fighting with GP and basically like GP just being like, please just use your head for once. Like, don't wear out your tires. Like, take it easy. Like, there's literally no reason for you to be pushing it that hard. And
Mm-hmm.
Max just fucking around with him and being like, oh, like, you don't want me to pit another time? Like, it's practice. And it's just
Yeah,
like
he's
so
just like
ridiculous.
just joking around, like absolutely chilling. Like I think at that point when that came on, he was like 15 seconds ahead of Checo already. It was
Yeah.
just like
There
he's literally just out there for a Sunday drive. That's what it's been like every weekend.
a leisurely drive for him.
Yeah.
Um, and in the post race interview as well, they talked about it, and he was like, "Well, they see all the numbers on their end, but I'm the one feeling the car." So he was like, "I know what I can push it to and what I can do," and I was like, "Okay, savage, Max, like keep it going."
Literally so
But
much confidence.
so much, and I mean, rightfully so. He's earned it at this point. You love him or you hate him, he's earned it. So whatever, Max. Just keep keeping the season a little bit boring. Still waiting for something crazy to happen where maybe you just aren't in the race. My other favorite moment of the race was the national anthem, where it was quite the eccentric performance. And you just see the camera panning over all the drivers' faces, and you could tell a lot of them were struggling not to laugh, specifically Alonso and George. And that I just remember, like I mentioned earlier, I was so hungover. And I think I like dozed off because I had it on a little bit early. And then I heard this like crazy singing, and I was like, like woke up thinking I was having a fever dream and I was like, what is happening? And then just seeing their reactions, I was like, okay, like this race is off to a good start, apparently. Um, but the TikToks and the tweets and just like the Instagram reels that have come out of that have had me laughing for the past like day or so. So if
There's
you
been a couple
haven't
times
seen
where they
it,
have I've seen it. It's so funny. But there's been a couple times this season where they've had like, or just in F1 in general, where they've had like some random rendition of like the national anthem, and it's always so funny when they just like pan across all the drivers and they're all just struggling so much to keep it together and look professional
and like not for nothing, there was just like cheerleaders lined up behind holding balloons, not moving. And this
for no
guy in these
reason.
like for no reason. And the main character just in his flame sunglasses, like a flag the size of like a red carpet runway, and he's wearing like gold sparkly pants and just putting the performance
I
of his
when I
life
first saw it,
on.
I thought I was like, "Is that Elton John?" Like
Yeah.
I was like, "What the hell is Elton John doing singing the Belgian like national anthem?"
Ellen, what are you doing here? That is too funny. I thought that too as well for like a brief second. And I
Yeah,
literally thought I was
it,
dreaming.
yeah, it was something.
That was a good one. That was great. And I'm going to probably like watch it again before I go to bed. Just for fun. Um,
All right. So there were a couple things, a couple controversial things that happened this race weekend. The first thing that happened before the race was that Otmar and Alan Permain basically mutually agreed to leave Alpine, but they definitely both got fired. Like
yep.
this also just came after Laurent Rossi got like kicked out of the CEO position. So like there's clearly shit going on in Alpine and it's not a
Yep.
good look for them at all.
This season of Drive to Survive is going to be nuts.
Yeah.
Like, think of
Yeah.
everything that has
If
happened
Drive to
so
Survive was
far.
like around when, you know, Otmar because they apparently they didn't know until they were at the Grand Prix. Like they found out that they were both fired at the track,
No
which
way.
is crazy. Yeah.
Why would they do that? So they flew all the way over there just to get fired?
Well, they didn't know they were flying over there to get fired, but
Well,
apparently
no.
the upper management, I guess, like the reports are that they made the decision like super quickly. Like it was not something that they were like planning long term. It just was like we're not doing well, and these guys are getting the axe.
Okay, but to be fair, I mean, the past two, I mean, I get it. They had like a double DNF vibe
Yeah,
going
but
on
that's
for a little
not their
bit. But that
fault.
wasn't, that's what I'm saying. That wasn't really their fault. So I
Yeah,
guess
I think
obviously
that
it must be like deeper down rooted issues, but
yeah from what I've
damn.
seen, from what I've seen is that like Otmar and Alan Permain, they were both had like a certain view of the team and what they were supposed to be doing and like what progress they wanted to make. But upper management had like a completely different view and thought they weren't doing a good job. And then teams like Aston then making the big jump over the winter, and then McLaren during the season making that big jump, and then Alpine's now like the sixth or seventh fastest car depending on the weekend.
Yeah.
Like I think just really was not good a good look for like upper management. So they were just like, we need to change shit.
Damn, that
But
sucks.
coming from this, there are rumors that Mattia Binotto might be in contention to take the team principal role at Alpine.
So they're taking the Ferrari reject.
Yeah.
I mean, good move on their end, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I
That
think that
sucks.
he's in contention for it, but he would want like more control than what their management like allows. So I don't know if it's actually going to happen or not. But yeah, it seems
Fair.
like silly season is starting, but for like the team principals, it's like what happened last year, where like six team principals like switched and like went to other teams and stuff. It's already starting.
It's just so crazy how they do it mid-season as well. Like, you would
Yeah,
think people would be like,
they're
"Oh, let's just, like,
ruthless.
wait." Yeah. I mean, I guess the sport has so much money, and money equals
Hmm.
power, and those people in power definitely are just ruthless out there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see
So
how it goes.
the other race controversy was goes back to what your wild prediction was. Obviously,
Mhm.
Oscar and Carlos made some contact lap one, turn one, and eventually they both DNF'd. And then in
Yep.
like interviews and on Twitter, Carlos was basically like completely blaming Oscar, saying like he's
Yeah.
inexperienced and like he should have known better to be there. And like everyone's taking sides, like whether Carlos was in the right or Oscar was in the right, and like it's just been, you know, everyone's been kind of divided opinions on this and whose fault it was.
I have to read Carlos's tweet
It's a good one.
because
Yeah.
it's a good one. So he goes, "Not what we wanted today. Racing incident, but Oscar was too optimistic. He was never side by side, and that move has never really worked in Spa. Congrats to the team and Charles on an encouraging result. We'll keep pushing after the break." So crazy. His PR team had to have been having a field day.
Yeah.
They had to have been like, "Carlos, what the actual F are you doing?" Like,
Carlos
you
wanted to
can't say
take
that.
absolutely no credit for that accident. He wanted to blame everything on Oscar.
And
He
I mean, if
obviously
you,
starts off with saying, "Oh, racing incident." Never mind, it was actually Oscar's fault.
it was an incident actually, but um, what are your thoughts? Like, who do you think was in the wrong?
So personally, I would say it's kind of both, but more so on Carlos
Yeah,
because Carlos locked up, so he had to move somewhere to avoid hitting. I think he was right behind Lewis. I think he was right behind Lewis. And he could have either gone left or gone right. And Oscar was like, if you watch Oscar's on board, that entire space is just open and there's just no one
yeah,
there. So he's like, yeah, I'll just drive in there. He was under control. And then Carlos brakes, locks his brake, cuts over. And
mm,
Oscar's already on the brake and there's nowhere. He can't go anywhere. He's already braking
yeah.
as hard as he can.
He's in the
And
wall.
yeah, like it does. You can't go three wide there, and Carlos is the one that made it three wide because he made a mistake.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, it is a racing incident, but I think the fault is more on Carlos.
I agree with that statement. I mean, looking at the replay, I think you said it well in what happened, but both aren't completely out of the clear of like wrongdoing. It was definitely like
Yeah,
a mix, but I do think Carlos was the one that it's tough. I mean, it's you're moving at how many miles per hour and things are
yeah,
going like so quickly. That is what it is, but
and especially when like with Carlos, when you lock up a brake, there's at that point you're just focusing on not trying to hit anyone else.
yeah,
So he was probably like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, and had to like the space he saw was to the right and like wasn't really
yeah.
looking in his mirror.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Um,
he probably didn't look in his mirror to see that. But it resulted in both of them. Wait, first of all, why did Carlos literally, what was it, 23 laps?
Yeah,
Or
he
was
went
it more?
20 some laps when he was losing like they said he lost 5% aero load and I think he was
Yeah.
like over half a second per lap slower than Charles because of it. It was like a huge amount of like damage. Like he lost his
It,
part of his side pod and floor and
yeah.
yeah.
It's like at
Um
that point, just retire the car and save yourself, your engine, everything. Like, whatever. I get it. He wanted
yeah,
to persevere.
apparently well, it wasn't his call. Apparently the team wanted to stay out in case there was a red flag because under red flag they could have repaired the damage.
Oh,
And so they were waiting for the rain. And
that makes
when the
sense.
rain came and went, and there were no red flags, they were like, "Okay, you can retire now." But that's what they were
Poor
basically hoping for. Yeah, just had him
Okay,
out
I didn't
there
know
like
that.
limping around for half the
Yeah.
race.
Literally like crawling, trying to finish, trying to keep up.
Yeah,
I feel like if I was him, I would be so pissed off just watching everyone pass me and like not being able to do anything about it. Uh, must be how
yeah,
like
yeah. It's
Logan
I saw
feels.
this wasn't Poor Logan. This wasn't my meme of the week, but I did see a meme. It's the one where it's like the two people driving past each other and they're just like looking out the window and like they're like, what the hell are you doing here? And it's like
Yeah.
Lando P19, Carlos P18 driving past each other, and then they're both like, what the fuck are you doing down here?
Literally, like, I thought this was the top of the grid. What's going on?
Yeah,
That was funny.
that was a good one. That was probably my second choice for meme of the week, but I think my meme of the week's better. So before we get into meme of the week, we got stats and nerdy shit. This one isn't specific to this race. It's kind of just some info and like stats about Red Bull. So obviously, people have been saying Red Bull is like the most dominant car like ever in F1, but the data shows that's not. So this chart here is the W05, which was the 2014 Mercedes, and this was showing the gap from that car to the next best car at each of these races that we've done in the beginning of the season, and comparing that to the gap from Red Bull this year to the second fastest car. So as you can see, there are two races where the gap from Red Bull to the second was bigger than the gap from Mercedes to second. That was Austria and Hungary. Every other race, Mercedes has a massive gap to second place. So I think it just goes to show that Red Bull is really good this year, but they're not the most dominant car ever in F1 history. I think the big difference is that, well, yeah, I guess the main difference is Checo. When it was Lewis and Nico, they were going at each other and they crashed into each other. And also that was at the beginning of the hybrid era, so there were like engine issues, engines would randomly blow up, and so it was a little bit more interesting and stuff. Whereas reliability these days, especially for like Red Bull, is really good. They like basically haven't had any engine issues in forever.
Yeah.
And Checo's not even close enough to Max to really risk them getting into an accident or crash or anything.
Okay, so it's taking an average of the two cars, essentially, and the gap. Okay, I get it.
So here,
Like
so we'll look
it's
at
Max and
no, so we'll look at it's not in like between their teammates. It's from like
no,
the
no, no,
Red
I
Bull to
know,
the next. Yeah.
but
But
it's
so like at
averaging both the Red Bulls.
I think the fastest at whatever the race was. So like we'll look at Bahrain. It says that Red Bull had a zero point 0.4 second per lap advantage over the second best car, and that's based off of Max because Max was the fastest Red Bull at that race. Whereas
Okay, so
the W05, they had a 1.1 second per lap advantage over the second best car in Bahrain in 2014.
damn, I wish I watched that season.
Yeah, I mean I mean I didn't watch it, but I just, that whole era was entertaining because, Lewis
Two
and
were
Nico were
fighting.
going at it. Yeah, and then by the time Nico left, people were getting a little bit closer to Mercedes, so it started to get a little bit better. But yeah, the
That makes
Mercedes
sense.
in the beginning of the turbo hybrid era were just
Wow.
unstoppable.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Um, oh, then also in Spa. So three of these races, Red Bull had a bigger advantage over the second than Mercedes, but I think it's usually pretty close. It looks like it's pretty close between those, but then when Mercedes has the advantage, it's like a second or half a second more than what Red Bull has this season.
So then for Spa, because the second best car was Red Bull,
Ferrari.
but it's not okay, but it's not counting.
It's
But I'm saying like it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
counting like Checo as the second best.
No,
It's
no, no,
counting
no,
like
no.
the
It's based on
okay,
the
okay, okay.
team. Yeah, the teams, not drivers.
Gotcha.
Just you take the fastest driver from the
Gotcha.
fastest team compared to the next fastest team and their
Yes.
fastest driver.
Okay. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Damn.
yeah. I mean, Mercedes was good. I think that their big like advantage in the turbo hybrid, like 2014 when that started, was just that they had like the best engine by far.
Yeah.
And like no one could catch up for basically until Max and Red Bull did in 2021.
That's how many years?
Yeah, I
You're the
mean,
math
what
guy.
they seven they had like 7 years of dominance.
Yeah. Oh yeah, duh. That was easy. It's a lot easier than I remember. All right, moving on to the meme of the week.
Yep. So my meme of the week is it's a video of two guys in like a little like speedboat and behind them is like a military like cruise ship or like destroyer or carrier or something, and they're like right under the front of it, and then the description is Piastri leading the race, and then obviously so it's like supposed to be Piastri looking behind and seeing Max in his rearview mirror, and it's just like there's nothing you can do. It's just like this massive thing just coming at you. And I think
The
it's
best is
really
that the
yeah.
guy
The
in
guy's
the
just
boat just
smiling.
has the
He's
biggest
just
smile on his
yeah
face.
yeah yeah. Because I think
He's
it's
not
just like
pressed.
yeah. It's like I imagine Piastri just sitting there and first looking behind and seeing Max be like, well, I'm gonna be in second in like 2 seconds, and just kind of enjoying life while it lasted, enjoying first place while it lasted.
Yeah, they're gonna like come in on the radio. They're gonna be like, Max is right behind you. He's gonna be like, yeah, I noticed. Thanks.
Probably by the
Like
time
I'm
that radio
nodding.
came in, Max was already passed. Like literally,
He's like,
Oscar after the sprint race was like interviewed, and he said like, "Oh, I thought the safety car was gonna help us," and then I like look in my mirror coming out of Eau Rouge, and Max was already passing me. Like literally after like one turn, well, basically two if you count Eau Rouge, but it was Max was just gone after that.
that is great. That is so
Yeah.
funny. Oscar's such a legend. I'm so happy to see his personality coming through. I think McLaren might be the funniest team on the grid.
I kind of think Carlos and Charles have a good banter between them. Oscar's
I
got
think it's
like
different.
the dry humor,
But so does
which
Lando
yeah,
as well.
that's true. They're different
I guess it's
type of humor
preference.
compared to Ferrari. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Ferrari's like goofy, like
They're more
silly,
goofy.
and
Yeah, yeah.
which obviously I love them. That's my team, but I think the
Hmm.
dry humor just like sends me a little bit more. It's just it's like funnier.
Yeah,
I don't know.
their delivery is it's always so good just because it's just comes out of nowhere, and then it's so funny.
I also think it's funny because half the time it's like in an interview and the person interviewing them has no idea that they're joking, which
Yeah.
makes it even funnier because you're
Yeah,
like,
you can always
oh
hear how
wow.
confused they are, or like they're like, "What?" Like they're so confused.
Yeah, I think that's maybe why I think they're funnier. But okay, moving on to my meme of the week. I just sent it to you. It was
Okay.
tough. I feel like they didn't all speak to me, but this one, unfortunately, we're taking shots at Daniel Ricciardo today. And it's a picture of him with his thumbs up, and it says, such an inspiring drive from Danny today, beating Sainz and Piastri.
Yeah, what an incredible drive from him to beat a McLaren and a Red Bull.
They really, switching him out was the best thing they could have ever done.
Yeah, yeah. That where did he finish? I think he was like
I think it was,
16th or 15th. But I mean, there were two DNFs, so
yeah, it's not much of a,
yeah,
um,
he was pretty much at the back.
yeah. Oh, I mean, he's not in a great car, as we've
No, but
seen. It's struggling, but I
yeah. I
think the
mean, we just
expectations
see.
for him were higher.
I mean, he got a track warning or track limit, so his lap was deleted in qualifying. So that's why he didn't make it to Q2. But he in that session he was faster than Yuki. Obviously, he
Yeah.
made a mistake, so you can't really say like, oh, what would have happened. But in the sprint,
Yep.
he qualified higher than Yuki, and he finished in the top 10. So that's something. And then, but just the race did not not go his way because he was starting
No.
from 19th. So
Yeah, Danny
it
Rick. So
it
it's
was
out of
actually kind of
love.
funny. He did pass Lando at one point, like on track. Like when Lando was like just dropping down the order in the beginning of the race. I think he did get passed by Daniel Ricciardo, like just on the straight because the McLaren was so slow. And I was like, Daniel Ricciardo racing and overpassing Lando was not on my bingo board since he
No,
for
that would have
this
been a
race.
crazy prediction, but
That would have been, but yeah,
didn't make it.
that's yeah, they're in a bad car, so it is what it is.
It is what it is. All right, moving on to driver highlight. Let
So
you
yeah,
take this one away.
this is a good one. It's kind of second dose of stats, but I know we were talking about it last episode when Max could win the drivers championship. So I found someone posted this. It's basically a graph of his current gap to second, and then the gap required to win as the season goes on. And at his current pace, he can become world champion by the Qatar sprint race, which would leave 6 races to go in the season. So you remember how I said he wouldn't beat the record of being the earliest,
Yeah.
like on the calendar wise, but if he did do that, he would set the record for most races to go left in a season to claim the World Drivers' Championship. So I think it just goes to show, how dominant they are and how dominant he is specifically.
And I don't know if I'm thinking about it the wrong way, but I mean, in the past, there's obviously been less races. So obviously,
Yeah.
you have to win less to win earlier. So I think the statistic of having like the most amount of races left, it depends the way that
And
you
also
look at it.
point
But
systems were also different, so it's kind of
yeah,
it's hard to compare, but it's still,
yeah,
at least in the last, like, I don't know, 10 since they introduced this new point system, it would be by far the earliest,
yeah,
with the most races to go than anyone else.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
quick driver highlight, but still, we'll see if anything happens to stop Max. But Qatar sprint race, where that's where he can do it.
you know what? I feel like it might be it. I feel like
Yeah, I
it
feel
might
like the
be
only
it.
way would be like an engine. The only way that something like stops him is if there's like an engine failure. Like that's
Or someone
literally, I
like
think.
takes one for the team and
Yeah,
crashes.
yeah. I did see a meme already, for the next race where it's like I think it was in reply to the tweet with this info. It was like only one man can prevent this, and it's the picture. It's like a picture of George Russell, and he's like, turn one Zandvoort. George Russell takes out Max.
Maybe that should be your wild prediction.
I don't think it's gonna happen because
I
I feel
don't think
like the
so either.
Mercedes won't be well. Actually, they do have a good car in low speed, so maybe they'll be up there. But we'll see what happens.
Did you also see
George
that
has
his
been known for lap one, turn one incidents, so
That's true. He's been on his best behavior recently though.
that is true. That is true.
He, he's been behaving.
He's learning.
Did you maybe the training wheels are coming off, but did you see that Max's trophy broke yet again?
Yep, 2 races in a row that they've had their trophies broken. They were doing the celebratory like picture, and someone trampled it, and then it just like fell apart. But apparently,
And it's the
this one
video.
wasn't porcelain, at least.
Yeah, it didn't take like 6 months and $45,000 to make. But the
Yeah,
video of him, he's just like, "Oh no, not another one!" And he just like does not give a fuck. He's like, "All
yeah.
right," like he's like, "I'm running out of room for these anyway."
Yeah, I think that they were able to like repair it on site like right after it broke, but they did break it. So I think that might be another record that they broke. Most podium trophies broken in a row
That we're aware of.
that we're aware of. Yeah, that's
Crazy.
been documented.
That's been caught on film. All right, so moving on, we have quite a bit of time until the next race, as it is summer break for the
Yeah.
drivers. We already saw Max and Lando are living it up at was it Martin Garrix?
Yeah, they went to Tomorrowland and they
Yep.
were
Yeah.
with Martin Garrix and they were just hanging out with him. They're like Lando took
Casual.
I think Max probably took his jet and Lando took like a private helicopter and they just immediately went there. I think it was in
Yeah.
Amsterdam.
Yeah. I think they said they were leaving like immediately from. I think
Yeah,
someone else was there too, but I'm not actually sure. I thought whatever, but
yeah. The
yeah.
picture I
Anyway.
saw was just of Max,
Yeah.
Lando, and Martin Garrix. But yeah,
Slay. What a flex. But yeah, so we have a lot of
they're
time.
fully in. Yeah, they are fully in summer break mode already.
I don't blame them. They deserve it. Um, but with that being said, that means it's going to be a while until the next race. So we are still going to make predictions. Um, and I will let you go first.
Sure. So my podium predictions are Max P1,
Yeah.
Checo P2, and Lewis P3. Um,
Okay.
so same first two as this race, but I think Checo's slightly in a groove. We'll see if the summer break is good or bad for him. But
Mm.
obviously he should be finishing second unless he fails to qualify again. But that's what I'm going with. And then
Aw.
my wild prediction is that Logan Sargent is going to out qualify Alex Albon.
That is a wild prediction.
Yeah. No real good reason. I just feel it. I'm just
Okay.
going I just feel like Logan's going to pull it out of the bag or Alex might have a bad lap. But it's been half the season. Logan's starting to get used to the car and I think this is it. I think he's going to finally out qualify Alex.
Well,
So, yeah.
hopefully the summer break does him well and that prediction happens for you.
I hope
I
so
won't
too,
hold my
because
breath.
I definitely need to catch some points up on you.
Yeah.
Come on,
Well,
you got to root for
we
Logan, the American.
I am rooting for him. He's just, he's warming up. He's heating up. He's heating up. He just he has to adjust still.
Yeah,
Maybe
he's
get a
still a
better car
rookie. He's
eventually.
still a rookie.
Yeah. We'll give him a break, but I don't know. I wonder if he's going to be vacationing in America.
We'll
Hit
see.
up
I
the
wouldn't be surprised.
Florida
Head back
beaches.
home. Yeah. The I did see that the Miami beaches, the water there is 100 degrees right now, so that's fun.
You're
You'll go
That's a
back and
hot
enjoy
tub.
that. That's literally it's a hot tub. Yes.
Holy shit. Well, it's not global warming anymore. It's like global burning now. They officially declared. No, they officially declared it.
I did not see that, but I'll take your word for it. I 100% believe it. And July 4th
Yeah.
of this year was the hottest recorded day of recorded weather in human history.
This is
But
disgusting.
we're not a weather podcast, so we'll move on.
Not yet, anyway.
So
All right.
what are your predictions for the next race?
Yeah, so no surprise, Max P1, Checo P2, obviously.
Hmm.
And this is contradicting everything that I said previously about Ferrari giving us a little teaser and then absolutely shitting their pants and, crushing our hope. I am putting Charles again for P3.
Okay, you're gonna
Um,
you, you think that they're gonna keep the good form going?
if I don't believe in them, no one else will. So, I'm just kidding. um, I'm just keeping the hopes high. The break will do them good. He's gonna come back fresh, calm, zen, less stressful or stressed than before. And he's leaving on a high note. He's leaving on a high note, and I think he's gonna keep it.
Hmm.
Knock on wood. This is a pipe dream, but we're doing it.
Well, good luck with that because I don't think that track is going to do well for their car. So,
Nope, definitely not.
all right, what's your wild prediction?
My wild prediction. I really couldn't think of something. I was stumped, but I just put Alonso out in Q2.
Okay,
No rhyme or
I'll take
reason.
that. Yeah, I mean, you just what you think? Do you think Lance is going to do better, or you don't know? You
No,
just Alonso's just not going to make it to Q3.
I just picked a random person, and I was like, "This sounds good."
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if it happens.
It won't, but you know what? I'm just trying to be nice and like tie things up for us.
Okay. Well, we have a month to think about why we made these stupid wild predictions out of for no reason at all.
Literally pulled them out of thin air. Well, maybe we'll take this break to get more creative.
Yeah, yeah, we gotta go back to the drawing board on our
Yeah.
wild predictions. Although, like I said earlier, we did both get our predictions right for this episode, so we
On
might be onto
technicalities.
something.
Yeah.
Technicalities, yeah.
We're
But
just good
or
at
maybe we just
negotiating.
we willed it into existence. I'm gonna go with that instead.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm doing with Charles, so thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to everybody's favorite segment, Hinge pickup line of the week. What do you got for us?
So, nothing too great. I just had to use these because I couldn't keep them for another time. So,
Okay.
we'll get into it. This one said, "Are you the Hungarian GP trophy? Because you're absolutely smashing."
That one's good. I like
It
that
was good.
one.
It was original and it
Mm-hmm.
was very timely. You can tell he's a
Yep.
fan. He watches.
Or he at least
And it
follows
was
it on Twitter or something.
exactly. He's enough ingrained that he knows that that happened.
Yeah.
What would you rate it?
For originality and timeliness, I think I'm gonna give it like I'll give it like a 9. I like that one. It's like simple,
Okay.
but it's good. I like it.
I like that it's actually a pickup line too. Like there's a
Yep, yep.
compliment
Unlike
thrown in
last
there.
week. Yep.
Yeah. I would give it like an 8.8.
Okay, we're going with not halves. We're going full decimals now.
Yeah.
What
just
pushed it
sounded
over the
right.
edge to an 8.8 from an 8.7? I want to know exactly.
The original, the punctuation. He actually used a question mark.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
All right.
Yeah.
0.1 for punctuation.
A lot of people are missing that. No, it was original. I liked it. I just like the funny ones, so I think that's why I just ducked a little bit. You know,
Mhm.
I'm picky apparently, but it's fine. It's fine. So, next one, very recent, obviously. "I must be Oscar Piastri and you Carlos Sainz because I want to take you out."
Nice. Yeah, that's very timely. That person must have literally watched the race. They probably were waiting for something to come up with something original, saw it happen in the race before the race even ended, and sent it to you.
Honestly, like I like that one because it was so quick, you know, and
Yep.
original. Um,
Yeah, they were on it.
they were on it. They were boom, 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 original. They watched. I mean, I'm assuming they watched it,
Hmm.
considering. Yeah, no, it was a decent one. He did well with that, I would say. What would you rate it?
I think I'll give that one. I was gonna say 8, but I think it's like as good as the first one, so I'm gonna go with a 9. I think both of them are 9s.
Yeah, I was gonna rate it the same, but this one's actually gonna be an 8.9 for me.
Okay, okay,
One
we
more
have a
point.
big step here.
Only because he like it was like an ask you out type of thing, you know? It wasn't just a
Hmm.
compliment. It was like I want to take you out. So I think it's more
Yeah,
in the terms of
this
like a
one's
pickup line,
definitely more of a pickup line. Where the last one was just a compliment
a compliment.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where that point one
Okay,
differentiator comes from.
we got 2 good ones this week. I like it, and timely
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah. So we'll see how they keep going and collecting. 4 week
See if you get any
break.
good
So
one. Yeah, any good ones over the summer break.
maybe
We'll
I'll
have
make some
hopefully
jokes
you'll
about
have
summer
a
break.
yeah, you'll probably have a lot to comb through over the next 4 weeks.
We'll see. We'll see. We're keeping the archives going. We still got a lot, but I will say I think they're getting worse and worse, which isn't good.
Well, you
Apart
didn't
from
have a
these two,
bad
these
one.
were
You didn't. Yeah, you didn't have a bad one for this week. So
well, I had to use two good ones because I couldn't hold
you
on to
couldn't let them
them.
go to waste. Yeah, That's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah, exactly. But
Maybe
you're
next
welcome.
episode you'll do a longer one with all the bad ones. Just have a bad
Okay.
Hinge pickup line of the week special or something.
Perfect. Yeah, I could definitely do a lot of those. A lot of repeats too, which isn't fun.
Probably Google them. Just pick the first thing that
Yeah,
came up.
losers, lame, unoriginal. Just kidding.
Roast them. Wow.
Anyway, moving on. I think that concludes our episode for this week.
Yeah, I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to check us out on all of our socials. You got TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And all the episodes will now be published on YouTube as well. So make sure to check that out.
It's also not Twitter anymore, it's X.
Oh, yeah. Do I have to change the logo? I think I might just keep it as the bird. Everyone knows what I'm talking
I
about.
think. The bird. Yeah, I think they'll forgive us. Even though there's a break, we might be doing some episodes in between. So stay tuned.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Spotify as well to get all the updates from if we do any special episodes and our regular episodes.
We're so good at this.
Well, I think that's a good
Right.
place to end.
And that's gas.
And that's gas. See ya.
Bye.